Hi and welcome to today's video. Today we're going to talk about something called design intent. Now we touched on this in one of the previous videos, but I'm going to go a little bit more in depth to it today. It's not really that scary, it's just something you need to be aware of. We're also going to talk about the 80-20 rule. You might have heard of it, you might not. But yeah, there's not going to be a lot of kind of fusion related stuff. It's all going to be just me showing you different ways of modeling something. So if you want to stick around for that, let's jump straight into Fusion. Okay, so here we are in Fusion, and today what we're going to do is we're going to design a wall bracket, you know, a kind of thing that you screw to the wall, put a shelf on, that kind of thing. It's not going to be a fantastic model, it's literally just used for the design intent. So we're going to start as usual with a sketch, and we're going to sketch on one of these planes randomly. And I am going to draw a couple of rectangles, and for completeness I'm going to press D on the keyboard and I'm going to put some dimensions in. So probably about 100 by maybe 15, maybe about 15. I could have of course made those two lengths equal, and maybe 50 that way. And in fact I will make those equal, so we can just delete those two dimensions, delete one of them. Click a line, hold down shift, click the other line and press equal length. There we go. Right, and that's it. That is our sketch. So we're going to hit finish sketch, and we'll see in our model tree, our timeline thing, we've got one sketch. And then I'm going to extrude. So I'm going to extrude both of those regions, and I'm going to pull it out by what, say like 45 millimeters. And there we go. If I hold down control and middle mouse, I can pan the screen and I can spin it around. And as you can see, it's very, very unexciting. Well, there you go. So it's not very strong. You know what I mean? It's literally, it's too weak and it needs to be stronger. So we're going to put some kind of rib in here. Now there's a couple of ways you can do that. We could go to the modify menu and we could stick a fillet in. And we could say, okay, fillet there and then pull it out. You can see instantly it's stronger, but now on this face here we have no flat face to put our fixings, so I guess we would have to count a bore. Becomes a pain, right? That might not be our design intent. We might not want that. We might want it to be flush fit, we might want it to be countersunk, whatever. So we're going to delete that fillet. So we could also use the rib tool. Now the rib tool is something you probably haven't seen before. And the way it works is you draw a line on a sketch from one surface to another surface, or one edge to another edge, and then you create a rib for it. Now I'll show you how that works. So we can create a sketch on a plane like there, and then a line. I am not really bothered about any dimensions with this. That's it. And then we use the rib tool. I believe it's under modify. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's under create. It would make sense for it to be under create. There it is, rib, and it says select your sketch. There's my sketch. Drag it out. Drag it. Whoa. Okay. Flip direction then. Flip direct. And you can see it's trying to do something what we want. It's trying to put a rib in there, but because it's on this front face, it's also going a bit mental on this side. Not great. So we can fix this by doing a couple of things. We can look at our first sketch and say, okay, our first sketch was on a plane. Well, your first sketch has to be on a plane. There's no reason it doesn't. You can't create it without putting it on a plane, right? Has to be. That's the rule. So what we have to do is look at our first extrude. We can edit this extrude and we can switch it from one side to symmetric. And I've just discovered there's a button here which says you can go whole length as well. I don't know if that was in the last video. I never noticed, but it upgraded. It updated today, so that might be new, might not be. And we can press OK. And now what that does is that puts the original plane. Let me put the origin planes in. Where is it? There it is. That now puts the original plane in the middle. So we now intend that plane to be in the middle. We intend the design to be symmetrical on its extrude, because we intend to use this plane again for the rib. That's all design intent. It's all just like thinking about it before you actually do it. This is not a hard and fast rule, mind. You can do whatever you want. So if I then edit my sketch, redefine my sketch plane, there we go, and instead of being this front face, I then make it this plane, you will notice that all of a sudden my sketch now moves into the middle. And then if we create a rib on that, drag it out and flip its side, it's done exactly what it says on the tin, and it's given us a 10mm wide rib. And that's a bit better because we can now get a fix and screw in either side, one at the bottom, and again on there. Excuse me. So that does what we kind of want. That's more about design intent. We intended this extrusion to be symmetrical. Now, design intent is not the end all and be all of existence, because you might get right through a massive model and think, damn it, I wished I'd put that plane in the right place in the first place. And you're not going to go right back through your model and change it all, okay? So we've got some construction tools up here which allow us to put planes in if we can use design intent in a different way. So if I delete the rib and I delete the sketch and I go back to my extrude and I change it from symmetric to one-sided, so we're back to this original position where the face is in line with this face and we have nothing through the center, okay? So if we go to this construct menu, we might think, well, the design intent is, we don't care what the design intent for this bit is, but we intend to have the rib in the middle. So we can create a plane and we can click here and then we can drag this plane. Okay, and we can even say on the drop down, we can do measure and we can say, okay, measure the length of that line, please. And then we can even do cool things like that line divided by 2. Okay, right, and then if we edit the plane, you can see where this is going, can't you? Then you minus that 45. And we've got a plane through the center. How cool is that, right? Awesome, yeah. So then we think, right, oh, maybe it's a little bit too narrow. Let's change the extrusion. So we edit the extrusion and we go from 45 to 35mm. And now the plane is in the middle. You get it? The plane is no longer in the middle. So it's like, oh, great. So there's a tool for this, right? So I'm going to delete that plane. And I'm going to drop down this construction menu and we'll see there's something called you'll see there's a whole plethora of planes we can put in, and axes and points and stuff. They all work pretty similar to one another, so I'm just going to pick mid plane. And what mid plane does, it says please select the planes you want to be the external edges, sorry, the external faces. So that one and that one, please. And now you can see we've got a plane through the center. Pretty cool. And if I create my rib, so I sketch on that plane and do my little groovy, you'll notice we've lost the relationship between these lines. So what we have to do is do the old hold down shift, click this line thing, and then the end of the line, then press quinky dink, and then do the same again, and it's built the relations back up. And then we create our rib using create rib. Click there, and we can now see that our 10mm rib is nicely in the middle. Now if we wanted to go back to our bracket and say, okay, maybe I was a little hasty with that decision to make it 35, let's make it 55 instead. You'll notice that the rib is still in the middle. Now the rib is still in the middle because the plane we selected was a mid plane. It wasn't based on one of these faces. It was based on the midpoint between both of them. Again, that's the intended design. The plane that houses the rib is intended to be halfway between those two faces. So you can do design intent however you want, but design intent is pretty important. Like I say, it's not the hard and fast rule, but it is quite important to what you want to do. There's also something called the 80-20 rule. Now, you may have heard of this, you may not have. Quick time check there. The 80-20 rule means that on the model tree or the timeline down the bottom, 80% of your geometry, so 80% of everything that you see here, will be created within 20% of the features. Okay, the other 80% of the features are there to refine it. And we can see that in this example. So let's go to our first feature, is a sketch, doesn't do anything. Our second feature is an extrude, which is a good proportion of our mass. And then we put our plane in and we put our sketch in, and then we put our rib in. So now we've got 100% of our geometry, we've used 100% of our features. But 80% of our geometry was created using 20% of our features. I mean, we could go in further from this now, when we could say, okay, I want it to look a little prettier because it looks hideous. So we could put a small radius on there, and we could put a bigger radius on the back. And what you'll find is that the model tree, or the timeline, is getting longer, but the amount of geometry that's on the screen isn't changing that much. So the more features we add, we're adding more to our 20% of the features, our 80% of the features which do nothing, and less than 20% of the mass is actually changing. So the 80-20 rule is pretty cool. It's something that I like to look at when you're looking at a complicated shape. How would you model this? Solid modeling, not surface modeling. Okay, so how would you model that? Well, you would look at creating more geometry than you need in your first extrude. So like a massive block, and then you would cut lumps out of it. That's the 80-20 rule, tells you that. Or you could start with the button and then another. No, you wouldn't do that. That's crazy. But yes, that is a little more information on design intent and an introduction to the 80-20 rule. If you want to model something and you think, oh, it's absolutely crazy, what a weird shape, just break it down into big lumps. Create those big lumps first, and then use more features to refine them. Okay? So, I don't want this to be a long video because it's not really that interesting, but it's something you need to be aware of as you move forwards into solid modeling. As per usual, if you've got anything that you want to ask me or anything, put it in the comments. As per usual, I'm not interested on comments about the crappy bracket that I've just modeled. I know how shit it is, trust me. But yeah, until next time, I've been Steve. Thanks for listening.